Here we go, Albert. Thank you for contacting me. And let's hear, if we can, do sort of a 3 minute nutshell about the encounter itself, and then we'll get into details after that.
All right, Martin. Quite simply, it was the fall of 1977. My girlfriend and I were, I think I was 17 years old. My girlfriend and I were heading south on I-95 through Connecticut. It was dark, um, and it was a fairly windy night. And suddenly, up ahead on the horizon line of the highway, you could see tall pines, and behind the pines, the sky lit up like a light string of lights. Um, as we got closer, when you can see an airliner coming through clouds, it looks like headlights from a car.
Right. Yep.
And understandably, Green State Airport is just back where we had come from in Rhode Island. So I'm thinking this is just a low-flying aircraft. As we continued to approach, the lights continued to light up the sky even more. You could see the black clouds flying through the background. And I looked over and I said to my friend, "That thing's too low. I think it's going to crash." And when I said that, or just shortly thereafter, it literally stopped. It stopped above the treetops. Now there were approximately 100 acres of field on both sides of us at this point, and the treetop and the tree line in the distance. It stopped there. We continued driving. It wasn't a super heavy traffic night. There were probably 15 or 20 other cars in front of us. Um, as we got closer, you could see the treetops being blown back and forth, almost as if a hurricane was acting upon them. They were literally bending over.
Huh.
And
Wow.
this is a very weird story because there are some convoluted events that take place that I can't explain even now. But it was just sitting there, and as we got closer, everybody in front of me started slowing down. Now, night literally turned to day. It was as bright as if the sun had just come up. You could see everything on both sides of the field, on both sides of the highway, all the way out as far as you could see on the field. It was, for all intents and purposes, it was daylight now. The craft itself, I've never heard anybody describe craft like this either. It had four pointed, almost like a compass. It had 4 points, a midsection. The bottom was rounded. The section just above that had a yellow band, and the top was cut out on angles. At the end of each arm, at the end of the 4 compass arms, there was a rod with a white ball of light. And this is where it gets extremely convoluted. But this is how I remember it, and it's how I told the story the day after, and the dozen or so times since then. It's never changed. This is what happened. As we sat there, all the cars in front of me pulled over. We watched this object from what I would say I'm going to estimate a quarter of a mile away. We were fairly close to it at this point, and it was just sitting there blowing the trees back and forth. And then all I remember is looking almost directly up over my vehicle, seeing a long row of amber-colored, more on the yellow side windows, just connected by frames. They weren't cutouts of circles. It went all the way around the craft, and there were 4 or 5 hominid-shaped shadow faces in those windows. Now, whenever I hear someone say, "I've been having telepathic communication from people from Zeta Reticuli," I tend to tune out. I'm sorry, that's just...
Yeah.
But then I think, what a hypocrite, because just because it didn't happen to me, why can't that happen? But that's not my interest in UFOs. But I will tell you this. As we sat there looking up to the underside of the craft and we saw these faces looking down at us through these windows, I heard in my head, "Don't be afraid. We're just here to observe you." Now, you know how in the Matrix movie, everything stops? Keanu Reeves goes back like this and
Oh
bullets go
yeah.
by him. It's all.
Yeah.
This was dreamlike in that sense.
Hmm.
There was a complete manipulation of our senses, of our perception of time. Things were moving, but I don't remember anything from inside the car where I was sitting with my girlfriend. I remember looking over at her and she was looking straight ahead. We weren't talking, we were just looking at this. And then, as if that didn't happen, we're looking at this object again over the treetops with the tops of the trees flying back and forth. We didn't see it go there from where it was. It was just back there. It slowly started to drift above the treetops and across the field to the left. It slowly started to drift backwards into the background and to the left, very slowly. And then it just accelerated and went whoosh, and it was pitch black again.
Wow. Did you see like a direction it shot off in?
It would have been south towards the coast.
No,
From
what I meant by that is, did it sort of look like it more like it vanished, or did you actually see the movement?
No, I watched it. I watched it go from something that looked approximately that big,
Yeah.
moved back, and then it just went
Wow.
gone. It didn't just blink out of existence.
Yeah.
So at that point, I looked over at my girlfriend and I said to her, "It's okay. Let's get an ice cream."
Huh.
That's all I said. And she said, "Okay." All the cars started heading out. We went maybe a couple of miles, and every single car in front of me took the exit. Every car we followed off the exit, like as in a caravan. We all pulled off the exit, and we all pulled into the Howard and Johnson's parking lot.
Oh my God. It
When
told
we
you to get ice cream.
when we, I don't remember that, but it was a good idea. We got out of the car, and so did all of the other people who were there. And it was almost like being in Zombieland. You could hear people whispering and walking slowly, and everybody just slowly filtered into the restaurant. Now, by the time we got in, we went to the counter. I remember we both had banana splits, but we sat down, and there was a man about 30 years old sitting next to me. He was wearing a tan blazer, and he was balding. And he was sitting there with his hands wrapped around a glass of ice water. And he was just staring at the kitchen area. And I looked over at him, and he turned his head slowly, and he looked at me, and we made eye contact, and he said, "Did you see them?"
Hmm.
I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You were there?" I said, "Yeah, I saw them." And we had a brief conversation about the spooky ooky things. Never saw him again. So we were going to Club Studio 54. We were only 17, but I knew we wouldn't get in, but I wanted to see Studio 54. So we basically took an 8-hour round trip from Massachusetts to Long Island to see Studio 54, and it was closed when we got there about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Ah.
And they claim it never closed down. I even looked for dates that it had closed for renovations, and I can't find anything on it being closed ever. So that's kind of it, Martin. We headed back, didn't talk about it, didn't discuss anything. Got back home, told her brother the day after that, "Oh yeah, this weird thing happened. Check this out." And we told him about it. And in the last 40 years, I've probably told a dozen people, best friends, family members. I've tried telling others, but they just stare off over your left shoulder and stare into the sky, and you
Yeah.
lost them. You don't have them anymore.
Yeah, I've seen that look. So this is really a fantastic story. It really is very interesting to me. And the fact that you had this thought, did you talk to your girlfriend? Did she actually feel the same, that she had the thought pop into her head?
Yeah, we both just knew we were supposed to get ice cream.
That's just amazing. Amazing. So,
And every car in front of me did the same thing. We all went to that restaurant.
what a story.
Every single car.
Yeah. This is really, really great stuff. Really, it's
But it's
amazing.
just a story. It's like everyone else's story.
Yeah,
I wish everybody had the opportunity to look up and see that. And you can't download your beliefs into anyone. You can't download the reality of what you witnessed.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's pretty crazy.
yeah. And how's that affect? Well, you obviously you listen to my show, so you've had an interest in this since that time, I imagine. Trying to figure out what things are.
Well, at least until podcasts came out, and I started finding all the big men on campus and ladies on campus, and listening to all the Lou Elizondos and the
Yeah,
Michael Masters and you and the other, you hunt in that forest of big guys. So I thought, you know what? Stop being a coward. I heard the lady tell her story
yeah,
that you
yes.
had,
Mm-hmm.
and I was thinking that sounds very familiar, especially seeing the amber windows and seeing faces in there. Um, I don't recall anything else. I don't even know. At 17, I wasn't really interested in investigating missing time. So whether it took us 15 minutes longer to get to Studio 54 or an hour and a half longer to get home, I wouldn't even have known the difference.
Right. Now, when you said that the shapes of the heads were sort of conical, would you say they're more or less human shape? Do you remember that part of it?
They were just humanoid. They were human. I'm not going to embellish this at all.
Sure.
There were no pointy chins and big.
Yeah.
All I remember is that I heard very clearly to not be afraid. We're just here to look at you or observe you. I don't remember which they used, look at or observe. But
Yeah.
I suddenly felt okay with the whole situation, and I have to open the door just a little bit to this whole idea of telepathic communication. It's just because they chose to speak 5 or 6 words to me, it doesn't mean that there aren't people doing this on a regular basis.
Right.
I,
Yeah.
Again, I'm skeptical. But
Yeah. All right, Albert. Well, thank you so much. That's a fantastic story. I'm so glad that you chose to tell it here on the air with us. Thank you very much.
you're welcome.